The first thing we're gonna pay attention to, okay? Not just our orientation, but also his orientation here, okay? So, first of all, what I'm working with generally here is a very loose seatbelt control, okay? That comes in the form of like, this is bridging like almost wrestling to jiu-jitsu, the spiral ride, and some sort of overgrip here. A lot of times like pinning the wrist and hand to the mat, okay? Stuff like this, okay? Now, one of the first things I can try here before I start to connect and go to full back takes is to try to break his base here, okay? So this usually happens with a lot of momentum or just generally when I see that his knees are more narrow, okay? We've done this in the past, but we're gonna put more focus on the back take this week, okay? So generally we're looking for that hip pull, that hip snap, okay? So we're walking towards the head, okay? And then as we walk towards the head, we're pulling on the hip, okay? This is technically a tight waist position, but I'm not trying to body lock him here. I'm specifically trying to pull his hip. Okay? And then previously we looked at things where like, you know, sometimes they will go all the way down, especially if they're newer. They'll go flat, you'll get side control. Or even intermediate here. He'll go down, but he won't go flat, and we'll get things like chair sit back takes. Okay, that's all still valid, all right? Now let's look at what he's probably gonna do here, okay? If he's smart, all right? So you guys saw Grant did it right away. He's not, I'm breaking this hip post, but I'm not breaking this elbow. He's not necessarily gonna willingly fall down to this arm for me, okay? So, as you guys are tight waisting, we also don't want him to post out too much. So make sure you're still putting a lot of weight into this hand so we have control over it, okay? We're walking towards the head. I pull the hip, but you see he's still keeping base on the elbow here, which in the past has been a good setup for things like crucifix for us, okay? But even easier than that, you guys see it's very easy for me to slide my knee into this gap, okay? And this is one of the main concepts for this week, which is basically what we call a wedge or a knee wedge, okay? One of the main things we're looking at, when we do the side turtle back takes and we make a knee wedge, we're getting perpendicular like this, okay? Parallel, perpendicular. All right, so watch these specific details. Again, tight to the hip, controlling the wrist, okay? I'm walking towards the head. We are gonna specifically use our right knee, okay? The outside leg here, okay? So we're walking, not letting him post, pulling the hip down, and I'm sliding that outside knee into the gap, okay? My right knee. It's gonna be representative of, again, the most basic back take here. I connect the seatbelt, remember guys, and the wrist, not too loose here. We need a lot of leverage, especially because we don't have hooks in yet. So nice and tight, chest to back, okay? Now I'm gonna start to pull him to me. This is gonna be really similar to something like Kimura trap, okay? When you're taking the back there. All right, so we need to pay attention to a few things here. Another big concept here, again, if he's a novice, we could elect to throw this leg over, get body triangles, the top hook, stuff like this, okay? But we're gonna be looking at a lot this week, him keeping his elbow really tight to this knee, okay? So from here, when this is the case, this hook is gonna be hard to get in. But watch, again, with the seatbelt, once I pull him here, another concept is we're gonna be pulling our partner on top of us a lot this week too. And when I do that, it makes this leg very light and loose. And then I can get my hook in, okay? Last thing we're gonna be also doing a lot this week, okay, is the half back position. Just because I got that hook in doesn't mean he's gonna release this for me either, okay? Remember, if he does, the hook can go right in. But a lot of times he's gonna be blocking the space. So we're gonna go to what we call a half back position here. So this leg's curled tight, we got the top knee over the hip and we're crossing our feet, and we're using this to open the space. Now guys, we gotta be very specific when we do this. Don't go straight back, curl up into a ball. Yeah, I'm fighting directly against that. Instead of pulling straight back, you need to twist towards the outside. Watch. That's gonna weaken his spine, okay? Now I can wedge my foot on top of the thigh and then start to get my hook in there. Generally, when we're in turtle, okay, people are gonna have some sort of base here with their legs. It's like closed guard, right? Closed guard, like I would be laying in front of him, my legs would be around the hips, Ramiro would be postured up. And like, see if I push him, just his knees alone are stopping him from falling over. Whereas if his knees are more narrow, see, this is gonna happen a lot, especially in transition. they're not being attacked yet, so they're a little like looser, a little relaxed, and that's when you can catch them off guard. If you're in something like front headlock, you start to cut around. This is a pretty good movement to use with momentum here, okay? So Mike keeps his base on his elbow. We connect our seatbelt grip. Remember, it's gonna be the head side knee that slides in for this, okay? We're pinching our knees to the hips and we're falling back, all right? This is my bottom hook right now, okay? I'm more compensated towards the side. I need to get this free, so once I get here, I'm gonna start to pull him on top of me so I can free my leg, bring it around, and then get my hooks, and then remember, if he closes here, we're gonna half back it, twist him open, and wedge our hook in. So many times, he makes that knee just a little bit wider. Yeah, it's gonna be really tough to pull that hip to the floor, okay? So, this opens up the more common back takes from turtle. Okay, the next one perhaps being the standard back take of turtle, okay? So we were in that spiral ride, which is, again, probably one of the loosest representations of a seatbelt grip. Now we're gonna go to the tightest representation of a seatbelt grip, which is locked hands, okay? So over the shoulder, locking here. Again, especially on the topic of heavyweights, you guys see how low I'm staying with the underhook, okay? People have been asking me about wrist grabs and coming up here this week. You can, but just be aware of him clamping here. He's hitting you with that Maki Oni reversal. Okay. Or what Sal calls the fat guy roll. I like that one better. All right, so down here. So now if he tries to wrap it, like that leverage isn't as great. Okay. All right, so we're gonna start with the same concept. We're gonna make a knee wedge right away. So I'm gonna take that outside leg, and I'm gonna get that perpendicular position that I was talking about, okay? Now, I wanna involve both legs. I wanna get control of his lower body. But you guys can see right now, one of the main issues is that Grant is sitting tight to his feet. So, we need to somehow lift his hips up. The best way is to treat his head as a lever, okay? And we're gonna push that lever with our torso. So bring your head up, please, okay? See, when I start to push that lever down, his hips come up, and now we can start to access his feet. It's very similar to like a coyote hook in half guard. So you guys see, when I do that, I bring my heel over. I'm not gonna stay here. This is too loose on his leg, especially for what we're about to do. I wanna be nice and tight in the pit of my knee, okay? Now from here, we're gonna turn him again. This time, we're pulling with the seat belt, and we're creating torque on the knee to aid with the turn. And you see, once again, I'm pulling him on top of me, so I have that hip shell. My feet are close to me, my knees are pinched. So Grant can achieve one of the main back escapes here, which is putting his back on the floor. That's gonna take a lot of time, okay? If he tries to do the other one where he turns to his knees, also gonna take a lot of time. Now, all I need is like a second or two to start to use my feet to shift my hips to get the bottom hook in, okay? And now, guys, look, this is the part people mess up a lot. Do not start chasing the back right here. Don't start throwing your hook over. This is weak. Okay? 2 requisites of the back. My chest is facing the ceiling. It needs to be on his back. Second one, my hips need to be higher than his. They are not. So once you get here, one good hip escape. Now I've achieved all those things. Chest on the back, hips higher than his. Okay? Again, if he's lazy here, we'll just put our hook in. Okay? If he's actively defending tight, that's when we're just gonna go right back to the half back. Feet crossed, knees pinched on the hip, and then twist open, and then you can put your hook in. Okay? No heat. Here. Okay? Or here. And you can do this in the gi, and there's a lot of times where you will do this over a collar grip. Okay? But for now, what we're trying to get across with the gi classes, we're gonna go with the underhand, we're gonna open the lapel, feed this thumb in, okay? And then this hand's gonna go across to the far lapel, all right? So when I pull on both lapels, it takes slack out of the collar. So this is not just control, this is also a submission. I'm choking him a lot of times when I do this, if my hands are tight enough, okay? When we're doing this position, okay, there's always exceptions to the rules, especially with more advanced techniques, okay? But your forearm should be under the armpit, and this one should be over the shoulder, okay? Some of you are getting confused and doing the opposite here. That's gonna take you out of the techniques that we're doing, because it changes the leverage. You should feel like this is much weaker than doing this. And when we're talking about taking people's backs, one of those big concepts for the lower body is, again, controlling the hips, all right? So I just want to like give you guys a display of like some of the things that you can try to do here, okay? And why I'm going through all those precautions. All right, so here, okay, so I scooped here, okay, we slid under, and we drew our feet in nice and tight like this, okay? You guys see I'm really squeezing my knees and keeping my feet tight towards me. So if he tries to move his hips around, it's difficult. Not impossible, but it's difficult. And I'm not, if I'm doing this for real, I'm not gonna stay here for more than a couple seconds, okay? Now guys, watch, this is what a lot of you are doing, okay? Even if you keep his leg hooked with your left leg, if you start to drop this leg, yeah, you can slide over. A lot easier. Because this wedge, this pinch is open on one side, okay? The same is true if we get here, and before I get control with this leg, I start to let go here, the same thing's gonna happen, yeah, to either side. Every technique you guys are gonna learn has its weakness. There's no perfect move in jiu-jitsu. Just gotta remember that. All right, so we're back in the same position. I get those collar grips again, or any type of seatbelt that you guys prefer, okay? I'm gonna switch perpendicular. I'm gonna wedge my knee between his elbow and his knee. And I'm gonna start to lean over his head to get his hips off of his feet. I'm gonna hook his close leg with my ankle and feed it to the pit bend of my knee, okay? From here, I'm pulling with my right arm, my right leg. And I'm loading his weight on top of me. Very important, guys, your feet are flat here, your knees are pinched, so you have control of this hip, okay? That's the central problem here, okay? Now from here, a little scoot out, get my bottom leg above his knee, I release, I plant, I scoot out again. The main foundation of back control is that your chest is on his back, okay? Second thing, my hips are higher than his, okay? And then from here, we can put our hook in. If you're looking for more basic technique right now, again, if you guys are getting deeper into this week, connect your feet for the half back, pinch your knees, and twist, and then you can stomp this hook in. When we're in side control, when he turns away, we can also form a seatbelt grip here. Okay, it just changes the technique in which we take back control. Okay, so that would be what we call a chair sit back take here. You see it accomplishes the same goal. Okay. Now, let's go back to turtle. Okay, so some of you, again, you're having the root problem here where you're turning the person, okay, and he's sliding out to his back here. Okay, but you still have this, and you're like, okay, I still have something, but I can't get the original goal. Guys, at this point, you've lost the original technique. However, and you'll see this if you keep coming to future classes, okay? There are avenues to get back to a top position and attack things like the chair sit back take, okay? For the first two techniques, if we had to put a concept or a category by the means we're attacking the back, it's what we call a near side hook. It's the side I'm on. If I was going to this side, that would be the far side, okay? So what that means is when I turn perpendicular here, okay, that's my near side hook. Think of back control as like this big spectrum here. Like if my feet were around, these would be both hooks. So it wouldn't really make sense to wedge this leg in, right? Okay, there are attacks from here, okay? For those of you that have a turtle game or like you have knowledge of turtle, look at it this way. This is the crucifix leg, okay? So if you guys like even go back to some of the classes we recorded for crucifix, this was our crucifix setup, if you guys remember. So if you guys do end up playing games here where you turn the person, they stay on the elbow, and it's this leg, okay? I'm not gonna pull her on top of me without pulling this arm out. Okay, and that would be our crucifix setup. Now we're gonna look at examples with both the seatbelt and an open spiral ride of a far side hook, okay? So this being a near side hook, that's my far side hook when I take the back right, okay? So early on, we talked about a wide base here, right? Let's talk about her making like almost the widest base she possibly could, to the point where it's a danger to me. Yeah, her posting that foot out. So for example, let's say I go for that hip snap. That's very difficult like this. Okay, that base is just too good. Maybe I get the knee wedge and I go for a seatbelt, but you guys see with her base like this is actually a big danger for me, because if I get way too stubborn here, I'll actually fall off. She'll slip her elbow out, and that's when you start to get your guard pass. So when Ashley brings that leg up and I identify that I can't manipulate her weight here, I'm going to keep that spiral ride strong to keep this space open. That's what we're manipulating now. There's space here. Okay? I'll keep the wrist. Now I'm going to walk around just enough so I can bring my foot over. Okay? And now we have a hook on this side. There's a lot of different configurations here. Okay, for now, just to keep this at a medium level for everybody, I'm just going to have her put her knee on the ground. Okay, good. Put your knee on the ground. Okay. I'll give you guys some more examples there in a little bit, but let's start simple. Okay. All right. So this is good. Now I have one hook in, but the difference is we're not on our side yet. We haven't broken our partner down. We're still on the top of turtle. Okay, some of you felt like during those positional rounds, like people are already trying to submit you here. They're locking up chokes, so on and so forth. That's fine, but after a while, like, again, once you experience this so much, the main defense here, she's just gonna take her hands and she's gonna pull that arm down. And now we need more sophisticated, avenues here, okay? So one of those is gonna be what we call a power half, okay? So if this is my seat belt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlock my seat belt. I'm going to keep the underhook arm where it is. I'm going to take this arm off the shoulder and I'm going to bring my forearm behind her head. Okay? I'm keeping my palm up and I'm locking what we call a 10-finger S grip here. Okay? So just linking my fingers together. Now from here, I'm using the elbow behind her head to drive her chin to her chest, and I'm using my right elbow to lift her shoulder. Okay? Now, while that is giving me a ton of leverage, one of the main mechanics here to make her turn is I'm going to lean my body weight over her head. Okay, and then as I do that, I'm going to start to pull towards my first hook. And you guys see, we're in a very similar position as before. From here, I don't want her to turn away from me or slide her back to the mat. So when I get here, I'm going to unlock the power half, get good control of the shoulder, pull it towards me, and use that to get my seatbelt arm under, and then relock. And then from here, guys, it's the beginning of class again. Hip escape, top hook, or if she's closing, half back and open. Okay? Let's draw a diagonal line from our partner's far shoulder to the close hip in which we have our first hook. Okay? This is going to be like a diagonal control. You are not going to accomplish that by getting the power half on this side. Okay? This doesn't do anything. Okay, keep your hands wide, keep your knees wide, and not only that, you're going to lose your balance here a lot. You need to be on this side. Pretty much all of you are doing this, but this can get confusing sometimes, okay? So, hook on the near side, power half on the far side. Okay? And guys, again, make sure your palm's up. A lot of you are using different grips here. Palm up, S grip here. That way you have a stronger leverage here, okay? Don't do stuff like this. See, I can't lift them now. Generally, good defense here, okay? They start to feel you rock the boat here. They're gonna make that base wider and wider and wider, okay? So post your foot out, please. Okay, so we have the wrist, we have our spiral ride, okay? From here, I'm gonna start to walk around, get that far hook in, okay? Now we're in turtle with one hook in already, okay? Now we just need to break him down to a hip to get a full back take. If he plays around here too much and he keeps space open, there's nothing to say that you can't just do this and get both hooks in right here. This is also extremely common, okay? I just want you guys to practice it this way right now, just to teach yourself to go in the right direction with the power half especially, okay? So under the armpit, palm up over the crown of the head. Guys, don't go on the neck, bring your head up. Lift your head up. See, that doesn't push his head down. Make sure you're over here. Okay, we want to make his chin touch his chest. Okay? Think of this as a giant lever. Go to the end of the lever. Okay? And then from here, don't just crank, okay? Because people can stay here and take this. Use your body weight on top of that. That's going to help you turn your partner much more efficiently, okay? Now from here, get control of that top shoulder so he's not turning out. You guys see, just like the other moves, if I really need to, I'll pull him on top of me a little bit and really shelve the hips again. Okay, lock my seat belt and then start to get my top hook. This is tangible with other things too, specifically, again, the first two techniques, okay? So if I get into situations here, let's say with the first one where I hit my hip snap here, okay? A lot of times if you're too slow to get leverage with the seat belt, he'll start to come back up, okay? And we can look for ways here to slip our hook in and actually get to the power half right away, okay? Very common with the second one too. Okay, a lot of times here, if we're not like diligent enough with our shelf, okay, he'll start to turn back out and we can't stop him, but that will open up the first hook and then you guys will be back in the same spot, okay? All right, so the next technique displays like the pros and cons of a lot of his defense and our grips, okay? So again, the last one is kind of like dealing with not just him making his base wide or standing up, but the Granby roll, which is one of the most common turtle defenses. So just like the seat belt, if I'm not diligent enough with the spiral ride, okay, I'm not putting pressure into this wrist enough, I'm not straightening my arm enough, at any point, Ulysses can roll over this shoulder and recover his guard, okay? And don't get me wrong, there's ways to chase the back there too, okay? Ways to pass as well. So honestly guys, the best way to stop that is to lock your seatbelt grip. If you ever feel like somebody's gonna Granby roll and you lock this, your overhook arm is now a barrier against the roll, okay? So you can do it gently. See, I have so much leverage over him and it's just stopping that shoulder, all right? So this really does bring us to the next technique, okay? When people feel like they can't Granby roll or they just don't prefer it, okay, especially, you know, not all of us like to roll like that, okay, he's just gonna fall to his hip, okay? And this isn't a bad idea, okay? From here you can start to look to tangle up my legs, get half tars, and then we not only lose the back, but we lose our good turtle position too. All right, so this one's gonna be very timing sensitive, all right? Our goal is to make that knee wedge again, but this time, we need to use not this leg, but our other leg over his back, and it needs to travel with him as he falls. We're gonna use our other knee to make the wedge on the other side as he decides to go to his side here, okay? So when I feel Ulysses start to make that decision, I get my knee on his back, okay, and I travel with him. And you guys see, I still have my prerequisite here. I have that knee under his back, okay? Now, there are a lot of different things that could happen here, body triangle situations, whatnot. We're gonna look at probably the most basic and the one that's tangible with previous lessons, specifically back control retention, okay? So watch guys. I'm gonna get tight with this top hook and start to open his knee and his hip. And again, I'm gonna pull him on top of me a little bit with the seat belt to unweight this leg, or get this leg free rather, okay? Now from here, you guys see what I do right away? I'm pushing off the mat with my toes. So if he goes to walk over, this is active resistance against his hips. I stay here for a millisecond so I can replace it again with the shelf. Okay, once we get to the shelf, we have decent control of the hips. Now we're just gonna take him to the other side. And again, business as usual. Half back if he's defending, or hook in if he's just being lazy here, okay? Okay, people ask me a lot, like what if he just keeps rolling? Well, that's kind of good, because it's gonna pretty much give us the back take. He's just gonna keep showing me his back if he keeps rolling. If he just falls to his side, his back's gonna be away from you. That's good for him, okay? So we're gonna do one here where you fall to your hip and you just keep turning, okay? Ready? Go. Okay. He just gave me the back. Let's just go back to what we just did, okay? All right, so if we're here and Grant is turning away from me this way, like he's trying to get back to his knees. All right, again, I brought this up on Monday, I think. For those of you that really like body triangles, can you come around this way, please? This would be a pretty good situation here to actually use the top hook. Pull him on top of you, and then from there you can switch to the body triangle pretty easy too. Okay? That's gonna be more if he's like trying to get back to his knees, not like trying to slide his back to the floor. All right, so we're here. I feel that he's about to go to his hip. I get my knee over his neck, and I get my knee under his ribs here. Remember, if we lose that, we're gonna have to go to like our back row and start like a chair sit position, okay? From here, I'll throw the top hook in. You might be thinking, what if he's keeping his knee tight to his elbow here? Guys, look at the space. It's not hard to get the top hook in this situation, okay? So don't worry about that too much, okay? Now from here, I wanna get this bottom leg free. So I'm gonna open his hip, I'm gonna pull him on top, I'm gonna stretch this out, and I'm gonna draw my legs in for the shelf again. Once I get the shelf, I'll just continue traveling him over, okay? And then we can do the stuff we've been doing all class. So it's the guy that's stalling, okay? The boring guy in practice, okay? He's got his elbows into his hips, you know? He's just waiting for the round end, okay? So this is tough, because like you can't even get your hands in. There's no underhooks. This doesn't do much, okay? So one thing I like to do here is use what we call like false or inverted hooks here. So the space we can exploit is actually the space between his feet, okay? So from here, you guys can be pretty loose with your hands. You can have your hands on the bag or the mat, okay? There's just no other way, so you don't have any grips right now. What I'm gonna start to do is go to a rear turtle. Again, this is rear turtle, side turtle, front headlock, okay? So we're gonna post our back foot, and that foot's gonna go between the line of his feet and make a wedge here, okay? All I need is just to be able to get my toes in, which is fairly easy, okay? Now from here, it's gonna be like walking up your underhooks and mount, okay? Guys, be careful. This is gonna put a lot of tension on your partner's knees, okay? I'm gonna walk my toes out, and you'll feel that knee start to lock, okay? From here, I'm gonna shift. Do not put your knee on the floor, because your foot's gonna come out and you're gonna lose your foot, okay? When you shift, keep this knee up, so I don't lose this tension on his leg. I don't lose my foot, okay? And then I'll get my other foot in. You guys see, when I start to pry him open like this, now the space is opening. He can keep his elbows as tight as he wants to his hips. Watch. Now my hook goes in. Okay? Now, we are back in the halfback situation here, where we're on top of turtle. However, this is an interesting situation where you can reasonably get both hooks in. So go ahead and try it like that. We got the first foot, walk this out, get the second foot. Now that we have both hooks in, okay, we're still going to use the power half return. Okay? We still have that issue where we have to pull the hips to the mat, right? So 1, 2. Guys, since we have both hooks, let's not mix up which side to go to, okay? It's gonna be a little stronger and safer for numerous reasons to still go to the side of the hand that's behind the head. So we have a good angle here. Start attacking, okay? Good. So we're here, we can't get anything going. Switch to rear turtle here, okay? All you need to do is just slide your toes into that gap. Just make sure your toes are above the foot by the ankle. If it's on the foot, it's gonna be hard to push his leg out. Okay, shift, other side. Maybe taunt him a little bit here if you want. So when you're ready, put your hooks in. 1, 2, and then again, back to the power half. Make sure that's palm up, S grip, elbow down across the head, elbow up under the armpit, shift your weight forwards, and that should make that breakdown easy here. Make sense?